you know, when I was given time at 1:20. Now I have a more difficult task. It should keep you awake and, but it's okay. I hope I make it interesting to keep you awake. So I'm going to talk about healthcare marketing. Quite frankly, I was just browsing through what material is available on healthcare marketing. Looks like not too much of talk on healthcare marketing. There's a lot of literature on healthcare and the technology and how technology is changing the scene, the healthcare scene, healthcare marketing scene. So healthcare scene rather. So I'm going to talk about a few things. Let me start with evolution of marketing. I'm sure all of you would have heard a lot about how marketing has changed over the years. So I'm going to talk about healthcare, evolution of health marketing and an overview of healthcare and marketing, industry and marketing. So revenue influences, influences, because as you've been hearing, that the profitability in healthcare is extremely limited, and we don't have much money to spend on marketing, unlike the FMCG or any other industry where you have enough and more money to spend on. Here, for launching a hospital, you might be probably offered 10% of the expected revenue. So for a normal running hospital, the marketing budget would be somewhere close to 2% or less than that. So it's always a challenge. So you need to kind of figure out where your money is going to come from. And I'm going to focus more on therapy access acceleration. It's on how to get a patient who needs health care to the right operator on time and ensure that he benefits out of the new technology that you've brought in your hospital or clinic. And I'm going to talk a little bit about launch points and what you should be doing to launch a new product or service. Because as I understand, in most of our hospitals, especially, we keep launching some service rather every other month. Probably you would get a new cardiac surgeon who would come with minimal access capabilities, or you might get someone who would do TAVI, and next month you would get someone else with some other capability. So you need to kind of be ahead of the game, and you should know how to launch these services, because these are not products, these are not things that you can dump. If you're in a FMCG company, if a brand of soap doesn't sell, you can say, okay, let's wind up this and go to the next brand. Here, these are people. These are people, and you should ensure that they are given opportunity to exhibit their talents. And most of these are elite doctors and would have spent decades in getting this capability. So it's our duty to ensure that the right kind of patient reaches the doctor on time, and the patient gets benefited out of the offering. So. And just a little bit about present and future of marketing. I'm sure you've heard excellent talks about what technology has done and how you can even do geofencing, how you can sense people walking into your hospital and how to greet them. All these are customer service, excellent. So this is common to all the industry. When you go to a hotel, the same thing can be used. When you come to the hospital, the same thing can be used. So technology kind of helps you to do better. But then, in hospital, probably we have a mix of both the traditional marketing and the technology. Both has to coexist because of the nature of the business. So, evolution of marketing, a little bit about the history. Basically it started off as a system where we exchange goods. Somebody will, produce rice, and somebody will produce dal, and you kind of exchange. And this is how the whole requirement, whatever you require for your living, was available for you. Subsequently, what happened is, over the years, it became a little more, kind of better. You produce a little more and try to sell your goods through shops, and probably exchange with some coin or currency. That happened. And subsequently, the industrial revolution came up, and people started doing mass production. So we had cars being produced, we had toothpaste being produced, brushes being produced. So there's a capability to produce more and more. So what happened is, you produce 100 and you had profit, and you just used your factory for 6 hours, then you thought, why not use it for 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours. So the capabilities grew. When the capabilities grew, then you had a challenge. So instead of manufacturing 100, you produced probably 1,000 or 10,000. Then what do you do with it? You have to sell it. So who will sell it? Then there came the sales guy who pitched in and started selling. Okay, now selling, hard sell, discounts doesn't work anymore. So you start thinking of marketing, going and telling people how you're different from the competitor's product. You said this guy's paste isn't tasty enough, my paste is more tasty, and probably this guy's paste has sugar and my paste has salt. All these kind of stories came up. So the marketing took a kind of lead, as I would say. So this is probably a game changer again, like the industrial revolution. So marketing people took kind of center stage, and then the media, the communication took a giant leap with telegraph, with telephones and mails and radios, everything. So the communication again took sales and marketing to a different level. So that again is, you see, all these are enabled by technology. And the final probably thing is what we see. You've been hearing a number of lectures about how social media and internet has kind of changed the picture of sales and marketing. So this is how the whole thing is. And going forward, it's going to be more of IoT, big data, artificial intelligence based selling. So it's already coming in. Like for example, in our organization, we keep there are studies going on. Like Microsoft is working on artificial intelligence, of course, on multiple things. They're also into healthcare. So probably soon you will have artificial intelligence, big data, and genomics playing this kind of center stage in healthcare marketing. Well, when I talk about all these things, these are all enablers. These are not substitute for what you do as a sales guy. So it is like, earlier you probably communicate through parrots, and then you had mails, cards, then you had telegrams, and then telephones, and you have world-class iPhone. So, but then you're still going to talk in Tamil or English or whatever language it is. So in sales and marketing, I see these things as enablers to sell your product, to make people understand my product is better than the rest, and it's time for you to consider my product. So all these technologies, let people not get intimidated. Of course, there are techies who are going to get you these technologies, but then the sales and marketing people are going to use these enablers, going to use these technologies to kind of sell their product. So, of course, when I probably Ashok will agree. When I started, my career in sales, in maybe late 80s or 90s, I hope all of you understand Tamil. So, a guy studies well, he will probably become a bank officer. Okay, and if somebody doesn't study well, they'll say, okay, medical report koduppa. So at least let him survive. So this is how sales was seen. Today it is completely different. What you see, and when it comes to selling, you definitely need knowledge about. I might not know AI or big data, but then I need to have someone who's going to help me use it for my benefit. So it's like you don't need to know how iPhone works, but if you're not going to use iPhone, and you're going to miss out something very big. So these are all technology. Technology is enabling the course of the kind of progress of sales and marketing. I'm sure we're going to have many more technologies coming and helping us. So how does it help you? This helps you to be on target, kind of hit the bullseye and get what you want to get, and not waste your time, money, and other resources, going for behind kind of a blind target, so that's how it's going to help you. So kind of overview of health industry, and I'm sure all of you have been talking about it. Here we have a problem. Traditionally we had the government-owned hospitals, then we had trust-owned hospitals, and then suddenly some people started thinking, okay, I'm a good doctor, I can always afford a small building and a OT, and why don't I think of doing a surgery and getting all the money myself, even if there are 10 guys who can afford my service, good enough. So the nursing homes came into the picture. So after that, it slowly, in the late 80s or mid 80s, this became an industry. So, which means that people can invest and start a public limited company or a private limited company and offer services. And we needed it because government wasn't investing enough in the early stages, because we were also struggling after independence. We didn't have enough money. We didn't know where to focus on. We had poor people everywhere. We had to offer subsidy for so many things. Health wasn't, though it was a priority, but not all health conditions. Suppose you have cancer or some kind of illness which needed all the attention from the government, probably yes, you had it. But normal things were traditionally ignored. Okay, you have back pain, fine, boss, there are people dying out of cancer. Why are you talking about back pain? So government couldn't really help everybody. So the private players who came into the industry kind of help was very useful. This industry is primarily driven by trust. It is, unless the patient patient has belief in the doctor, he's not going to come to you. So this industry, by and large, is driven by trust, and it is capital intensive, and priceless human potential are employed in this. Now, most of the doctors whom you hire are highly qualified, and they've spent their life learning some newer skills, and you have to definitely give them the infrastructure to perform. And as marketing guys, we have to ensure that they are able to kind of utilize their expertise and offer benefits to the public. So this is a kind of ever-changing, like any other technology. Technology changes almost every other day. So whatever we thought was the ultimate thing, like probably in the 60s and 70s, people would have been talking a lot about laminectomy and how Dr. X is an expert in laminectomy. Today they say you shouldn't be doing laminectomy, you'll lose the balance, so you don't do laminectomy. So several surgeries which came and which went away, and there are newer technologies, and now we do surgeries, big surgeries, like TAVI is done in a single day and the patient goes back home the next day, which means today you're talking about valve replacement in 24 hours and he goes back home. And these are not normal valve replacement patients. These are patients who wouldn't have had the opportunity to go for valve replacement, because these are all mostly elderly people for whom most of the doctors would have said, boss, I can't do anything about it. You have a problem, fine, but then you just have to be at home and wait for your day. Now it is possible. So technology is, changing fast, and people are learning newer skills and coming probably back to India from various countries, willing to offer their services, and here we have to give them the opportunity to perform. Here, the profitability is extremely limited because of multiple factors, because we often compare private players with a government college or a college hospital or a private college hospital or a trust hospital. This happens all the time. I've been hearing talks on Ayushman Bharat. The problem here is whenever we go for negotiations to insurance companies, they often put 4 columns. They say, okay, appendectomy, the national average is say X, and you have private hospitals average 3X, and then your hospitals average 10X, and then the top hospital 20X. Why is there a big gap? Why there is a gap is, most of these government hospitals are funded by the government. The land is given by the government, building is given by the government, electricity is given by the government, doctors are paid by them, nurses are paid by them. When it comes to private players, nothing is paid. It's all the investors' money. So any company, any organization that you run, any business you run, I don't think you'll work for a small profit. Be it Coke, Pepsi, mineral water, or hotel industry. You have to have a decent profit margin to ensure that you give money back to the investors and have some reserves for you to grow for further projects. That is a challenge in healthcare industry. And public awareness, it's another big problem. Most often, what we find is all these cancer patients will go to some of the finest hospitals, Cancer Hospital, Adair Cancer Hospital, Apollo, everywhere, and stage 4 cancer, and doctor would say, well, I've done my best and nothing much can be done beyond this. And then there will be a question, sir, the Shimoga or center Polama. So, quite frankly, an oncologist would say, please go ahead and try your luck. So, public awareness is a problem. They don't come to the right place. They don't know how to compare your price with X, Y, Z pricing. So that's a problem. So we need to kind of, as marketing people, you should be able to tell them why something is expensive, why it's not expensive. For example, if somebody is doing angiogram for 2,000 rupees or 3,000 rupees and somebody is doing for 15,000 rupees, people should first understand why it is 2,000 or 3,000 somewhere else and why it is 15,000 somewhere else. There is a cost your consumables, cost your dye, cost your OT theatre or cath lab. All these has to be paid by somebody, be it a patient or insurance or government. Somebody has to pay for it. If somebody is not paying for it and if the pricing is low, you just have to see why it is low. There could be some problem there. So this is something all of us should understand. So public awareness is very important, and as marketing professionals, healthcare marketing professionals, we should ensure that people are well informed and they don't take a choice which is not good for them. It's very crucial. So, when it comes to revenue influencers, I'm going to talk about physical access. The hospital should be closer to you, otherwise they're not going to come to you. Today things have changed. Probably a person living in Omar, you can't expect him to come all the way to Greaves Road or somewhere else. He's happy, or Morepen. So he'll say, I've got heart attack and I go to the nearest hospital. So physical access is important, and financial access is important. They should have some kind of insurance or someone to pay for it. If that's not going to happen, the patient is not going to come to you. He could be your neighbor, but he's not going to come to you for treatment, that's for sure. And keep capacity. Infrastructure itself is a problem. I'm sure all of you, especially operations experts, would say every day a doctor would walk into his room and say, I need this glove, and I need this table, I need this tool for surgery. And all of them would say, yes, well, we will try to get you as soon as possible. And the doctor would say, come on, I'm talking about something very important. It's a question of life and death. This operations head is such an idiot, he doesn't even understand what I'm talking about. The issue is, the operations person would have budgeted for the whole year, and he has only that much money to spend. And if something new crops up, he doesn't have the money. So he has to figure out whether it's possible to kind of cut down something else and buy. So capacity is a big constraint here. And capability, you might have the best of biplane cath lab, and if you don't have a person who can do neurointerventions, you're in trouble, because you're not going to make money out of the infrastructure that you built. So doctors are very important. So here, if you see capacity, physical capacity, the infrastructure is important, and doctors important, more important than the infrastructure itself. So these two are very important. And case mix is very important for sustainability. So what are you going to promote in the market? Are you going to promote something which is going to, are you going to go talk to people about malaria and bring them to my hospital and get them treated? Or you want to talk about probably a minimal surgery where you're going to come in and walk and get your surgery and go back in 8 or 10 hours or 24 hours, which makes sense. So for a hospital, it always makes sense to do surgeries and short stay surgeries and minimize medical admissions, and that's how the kind of profitability grows. So there should be an ideal case mix. Of course, this is not in your hands. Okay, if there's an outbreak of malaria, people are going to come in large numbers. So quite often you would say, well, my hospital is full, and your finance, your CFO is going to ask, full with what? So he would be happy with people coming for surgery and getting admitted and getting treated and moving away with a smile, paying your money. But in case of medical admission, the profitability could be lower. But then you need to kind of strike a fine balance between medical admission and therapies that are going to offer you enough money to sustain. Technology, again, ALOS makes is a key game changer. So with more newer technology coming in, we have a problem, especially in some of the bigger hospitals. You used to have the hospital full of patients. With newer technologies coming in, suddenly you find the occupancy is dropped by 60, 30, 40%. So if you actually see what happened was, appendectomy patients who used to stay for 3-4 days are now going back in the same day. With robotics coming in, people get operated and going back the same day, which means suddenly you find a dip in the occupancy. So you need to kind of figure out how you're going to manage this. So it's a delicate balance. So it's very important for people to look into it. And communication is very important, and it's all about content today. All the technology is available with you is of no use unless you are able to create content to communicate your target audience, probably the patients, the referral doctors. If content is absent, no amount of technology can be of use. So content is a game changer, and you need to have content for both the community and for the doctors. The clinical content is equally important. Quite often we see exceptional doctors trying to spend more time in developing clinical content, and they go to various conferences, talk about their achievement and their publications. So, and many of them restrict only to the community. So basically people talk about, do you have headache, come to my headache clinic. So they don't talk about clinical communication. Both are required to the doctor and also to the lay public. You need to communicate. Adaptability is very important, and affordability for you to buy any newer product, newer technology. You need to kind of figure out whether you have the budget to buy it. It's always good to have a biplane cath lab to do your angiograms, but then can you afford it? Can you get the return on investment? Is something which you should look at. So therapy access acceleration is the key for most of these problems that we face in day-to-day lives. And market access is another thing which I'm trying to kind of touch upon. So when it comes to therapy access acceleration, so all the departments that you have, or if it's a smaller hospital, the hospital should have a sample flyer which talks about your capabilities. Quite often, what we find is most of the doctors, we go tell them how many angiograms have you done in your life, or how many angioplasties. You'll blink for a while and say, I don't know, I've been doing this for 30 years. Well, these are inputs that are very important for marketing your specialty. So if you have a cardiology department, it's very important for you to have a sample flyer which talks about how many angiograms you've done all these years in your hospital, how many angioplasties you've done in your hospital, and how many CABGs if you have cardiac surgery. So all these things are very important. It's like a horoscope. You need to have everything about your organization. That probably is the starting point. This not only has the number of procedures that you've done, it also should list all those players in your hospital who are key players. For example, if it's a cardiology department, you should talk about who are there in the cardiology department, the chief and the next in line, 4 or 5 people. Their numbers should be listed there. And you should also have a kind of mention on the number of publications that the doctors have done all these years. And you should have the list of services offered in this department. So this is a very important thing that every hospital should try and have for their department. I'll show you some samples of this. Maybe it's a little dry, especially after the lunch, it's definitely dry. So I'll show you some sample documents for this. And physician readiness assessment. So once you decide to market your therapy, I'm talking about therapy access acceleration, maybe to kind of make you understand why I'm talking about this. So it is like, suppose your hospital decides to invest on, say, robotics, okay, and you've spent several crores on the equipment, and you've kind of blocked maybe 1,000 or 2,000 square feet for the robo, and a console another 500 square feet. So for the hospital, every inch is money. So your CFO is not going to agree to your proposal for robotics. Suppose you manage to get it. So you've got space occupied and you've invested crores on the equipment, and you've managed to get an expert who's trained in robotics for decades. So this is your investment. So once you do this investment, you have the marketing team has the compulsion to ensure that public uses your facility. Okay. So why are you doing this? It's not hard sell. I've been hearing people in the community and also here talking about how we hard sell. It's not hard sell. It is brought with a particular intention in mind. It's not an ornamental thing that you buy a robotics. You brought it with an intention. So where is robotics being used? Robotics is exceptionally good when you want to do a fine surgery. It is exponentially better than laparoscopic surgeries. The reason is the doctor doesn't have to hold on to the laparoscopy for hours together. So the accuracy, your tiredness factor will not happen in a robo. And the third thing is, suppose you're looking at, say, a prostate removal, a partial prostate removal. So traditionally, the open surgery, they'll kind of make an approximation and remove the cancerous part. here the benefit in robotics is you can actually map the entire tumor component, like the entire area, and you're going to do the surgery for the next room in a console, like a video game. When you cut open the tumor, for sure it will not go even a millimeter beyond what you mapped. So definitely it is going to be a game changer. So these are the benefits you look for when you invest on a huge facility, capability. So once you invest on a capability, you should ensure that these capabilities are being used. So that is one of the reasons why we're talking about therapy access acceleration. So here, suppose let's assume that we're talking about robotics. So you're talking about the department, what it can do, how many people are there in robotics, what are the surgeries that they can do, and what are the publications they've got, the experience. Everything gets mapped in the fact sheet. Second thing is readiness. So is the doctor ready to be marketed? So here, to give you a sample, I know how many of you have been a sales rep, probably in pharma or any other industry. So typically a medical rep, when he's supposed to start his day's work, he's supposed to make a note of the territory. You would have given a tour program, and he should make a list of doctors whom he's going to meet. And based on the doctors whom he's going to meet, he has to assemble, arrange his bag, which means that he has to take the appropriate sample, literatures for the whole day. So this is something like that. If a doctor has to be marketed right from his visiting card to multiple other things that he has to communicate to his target audience, which is primarily doctors. So he has to go meet some of them, talk to them about how robotics is superior than the conventional surgery, and why people should consider. So there's a list of things which he has to take, saying, are you ready with your card? Are you ready with your communication literatures? Do you have enough copies of your publications? Do you have some sample case studies that you can exhibit to your doctor when you go on a call? So it is basically like a sales call. The doctor should be ready with things that are required to help him get marketed in the get his skills marketed. So identifying and resolving barriers. If it's got some barriers, he says, I don't have case studies. We should be able to help him to create a case study which he can take it to the market. And identifying referral physicians. So you need to kind of figure out who are the people who are going to help you. So I always talk about primary referrals and secondary referrals. For example, if you're a spine surgeon, orthopedic spine surgeon, if you go to a neurosurgeon and say, I'm an expert in TB spine and lumbar spine, he will definitely kind of refer cases. But then if you go to a neurosurgeon and tell him that I specialize in cervical spine, for sure you're not going to get a single patient, because he feels that he's an expert and he's authorized to treat. Same is the case with orthopedic neurospine surgeon. Probably he will, if orthopedic spine or neurosurgeon, if orthopedic surgeon says, okay, or rather, the other way. If orthopedic neurosurgeon wants to kind of give cases to a ortho surgeon, he might give the whatever he is not supposed to be treating. So this is basically, here you're going to talk about who's your referral base and who's going to be treating. For example, if it's a spine surgeon doing kyphoplasty, he has to meet radiologists and ask them, when you do an X-ray, do you look for spinal fractures? For all you know, there's a study which was done in Germany. Out of 100 patients whom they had noticed, whom they had X-rayed, there were at least 15-20 people who had a hairline fracture in the elderly population. Most of them were not even reported by the radiologist, because quite often what happens when an 80-year-old person's report comes in, he sees a chest X-ray and says chest clear, and there's a kind of hairline fracture in the spine behind. They would have missed it. So they have to go talk to the radiologist and tell them this is the thing you should look for when there is a spinal fracture. So basically it is kind of identifying the referral physician, who's going to send you. So that should be documented. And letters to your referral doctors, all these should be done. Most of these are physical things, little away from technology, but then these are required for a hospital's survival. And prioritizing your market, where you're going to, both the geographical market and the referral physicians, who's going to come to you, and also the age group, all this has to be done. This is going to be the basic document with which you're going to use social media or direct sales calls or whatever is required for your selling. And normally you have a referral packet checklist, which means that if you want to communicate your best cases to your referral group, it has to be documented, and you should assign some people to talk to your referral base, and it has to be regular. Even if it's going to be communicating through social media, you should ensure that someone is assigned to do that. Suppose you had a good case today and you want to kind of communicate it to the market, you should be able to do it. Sorry, my time's up. I'll just finish off with a few more points. Thank you. Right. So I'll probably, I've almost covered it. So if in case you have any question, you can let me know.
A round of applause, please.